Hi everyone, Bandanner here. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the open beta and welcome back to the RTS Cast and Stuff channel. Remember to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. The competition continues between the Warno people and the Broken Arrow people to see who can give me the most subscribers. Today we are going to look at the fourth tab of this deck, the support tab. Now, we're halfway there. Not long to go. This is probably one of the bigger tabs still left, though there is a lot to go through in the air tab, I will admit, because of all the weapon options. Support tab, I wish you could order it by unit type, so we could do all the air units, anti-air units first, etc. But to keep it simple, it's in alphabetical order, we'll just go through it bit by bit. So, starting out with the Lav AD. The Lav AD, or Lav Air Defense, is an air defense variant of the Lav, the platform we have talked about multiple times that comes in multiple different variants. It is, of course, airdroppable, and it is, of course, amphibious. It comes with a GAU 1225mm Gatling gun. That Gatling gun can fire at infantry, at vehicles, at helicopters, and at aircraft. It is pretty much universally going to shoot at everything. Interestingly, and I don't fully understand this mechanic, it apparently has a penetration variation on heat. So the only thing that seems to have penetration variation are kinetic rounds in this game, but this is a heat round that has 60 to 120mm heat penetration. It varies, and I don't understand why. I don't know if this is supposed to be kinetic and they've made it heat because that way they can give it a blast radius to be more effective against infantry. I really don't know. I feel like there's some gamey, jiggery pokery going on here to make this work in the game because, you know, having a range of damage is usually for kinetic rounds based on how far away you are from the source of the bullet or the cannon round, etc. So a little bit weird, but it's pretty effective against shooting everything. Obviously not against tanks. And then we have the Stinger. Now this variant of the Stinger is longer range than the man-portable one that you have in the infantry tab. This is 2000 meter range. Obviously effective against choppers and aircraft. Not much to say there other than it gets 16 missiles. Very useful against helicopters at the front lines. Bear in mind, though, that it has no way to defend itself against incoming ATGMs for the most part, unless you upgrade the armor. So the armor package can go to the A2 armor, which also gives it smoke. Now, I usually bring this in as cheap as possible, but I've started to realize that maybe I do need the smoke, because if you do go up against enemy helicopters, although you have lots of missiles with a decent range, they also have plenty of ATGM missiles. And some of those ATGMs will one-hit the Lav AD. You know, one-hit kill. That's it. So having the smoke could mean the difference between this dying and not dying. So I'm starting to think more. Maybe you should bring the upgrade for that one. But I leave that to you. Next up is the Lav L. Surprisingly, is a transport variant of the Lav that can't take infantry. It is purely for transporting goods, weapons, armor, bullets, whatever, supplies to the front, basically. 2,500 supplies max. It can also be paradropped in by an airdrop, or you can have it go across water. It is amphibious again. This time you get a 240, an M240 machine gun, I should say, on top there. You can upgrade that package as well. Again, you can upgrade to the A2 armor package, which gives smoke, but doesn't mention it on the actual list there. And then you get the heavy machine gun option or the Mark 19 grenade launcher. Again, I try to bring this in as cheap as possible. I try to keep it out of harm's way. It's mostly just there to bring in resources and supplies, basically. Because, as I say, you can't bring any infantry in this, surprisingly. Then we have the Lav M. This is a variant of the Lav with mortars. Pretty self-explanatory, right? It's got a big hole cut in the top with some doors that open up, and it's got a mortar in there. It's an 81mm mortar, so not the biggest. This thing comes with the M240 machine gun for self-defense, but doesn't come with anything else. You can upgrade it to the A2 armor package with the smoke. I'm not sure why you would, because if anything is being kept behind the lines, it's artillery and mortars, so I wouldn't expect this to be too much in harm's way. In terms of the rounds, it gets the 81mm HE round, which has a pretty big blast radius, so quite effective against infantry. Obviously, they're going to get caught in that blast. Suppressive power is pretty good. Damage is so-so, but, you know, not bad. Heat penetration, if it does hit something, 40mm heat penetration, not terrible. Maybe if you got a very lucky top hit on some tank armor, that wouldn't be very pleasant for the tank. And then you've got the smoke rounds as well. Obviously for smoking your advance, smoking a retreat, causing a distraction. The list is endless. Maybe you even just want to smoke to stop the enemy being able to fire at you from long range. There are lots of reasons you might use smoke. No upgrade options here other than the armor. No changes in those rounds. Then you have the LVSR, which is basically a big truck with a shipping crate on the back that can carry only supplies, 15,000 supplies at most. Again, it does have some upgrade options with a B-kit armor to give it a little bit more armor all round, not on the top though. And also it can have a self-defense upgrade with a standard M240 medium machine gun, an M2 heavy machine gun, or the Mark 19 grenade launcher. But again, I don't see why you would need to arm this. It should be kept far behind your lines, and unless the enemy have something around behind you, that's the only time that would come in handy, and it's just making it more expensive. So generally, if there's enemy units behind my lines, something else is going to be dealing with them. I'm not going to expect this to defend itself. Next up, a familiar unit, the M109, a 6 Paladin in this case, but obviously there are other variations. This is a 155mm cannon with 155mm shells. It comes with a variety. It comes with the HE rounds. These are 90 in blast radius, so much bigger than those mortars. I'm curious, actually. I'd have to test it, and it would be difficult to do it in the current version of the game. The damage output over an area between this and a mortar. I'm actually a little bit curious about that. Technically, I suppose the dispersion is bigger on this, but the blasts are a lot bigger. So, does it do more damage over an area? Not sure. It also has a 75mm heat penetration, so if you do get lucky and hit the top of a tank, it's going to hurt. It also has smoke rounds, pretty much the same as before. And then you also get Excalibur rounds. These are laser guided rounds, so if you manage to laser designate a target with something, then you can call in the Excalibur rounds, which are pinpoint accurate, have that 75mm heat penetration still, and obviously if they hit a tank, they're going to kill the tank. It's going to hurt a lot. So something to bear in mind. Loadout does vary, so you can either have high explosive or you can change to the cluster loadout. So, very similar. In this case, cluster munitions explode above the target area and pepper the area with little bomblets. So, they are considered top armor attack. So they always hit top armor. They also, here as you'll see, get the cluster type, which is just designating that they open up over an area and pepper the ground. You'll have seen these used in game by now, I'm sure. They have a much higher heat penetration because they are designed primarily to mess up vehicles, but they are also effective against infantry. But you'll see them used a lot against vehicles in games and in real life to some extent as well. Those little bomblets are obviously designed that they want to land on top of vehicles. And in some cluster bombs that have been designed in more recent times, a little bit of knowledge I guess outside of the game, they actually have targeting. The little bomblets that come out have targeting in them themselves and will target vehicles. So they will maneuver themselves towards the top of a vehicle, not just drop blindly. So, you know, if they detect a vehicle under them, they will aim for that with their little parachutes and stuff, rather than just land on the ground. Just an interesting point to note. Not sure it goes in, you know, that detail in the game, but yeah, there you go. You also get smoke rounds, the same as above, basically, and then you also get the copper rounds. It doesn't give you the full name, does it? Can I change that to give me the name? No, I can't. So I'm not sure what the full name is there. Apologies, copper something, but it is again a laser guided munition, so it will be pinpoint accurate above the target it's going for, but it is still cluster, so it's still going to spread out over an area. Something to just bear in mind. I guess what I mean by that is it's going to be pinpoint accurate on the tank and hit the tank and do the damage, but I guess it's not going to be any more special than doing the same thing with the cluster, because if you catch a tank in the cluster munition anyway, it should do the same damage to the top armor. I guess it's just more guaranteed. It's not going to miss. But it's not like smacking a great big high explosive shell right into the top, I suppose. It's still going to be that spread out attack. Then you have the M1287 MCV mortar carrier. This carries 120mm mortars. So this time I would expect there to be, yeah, a bigger blast radius, a higher damage, I believe. Let's pin it and let's have a look at the Lav M as well, because I like to compare. Yeah, 9 damage instead of 6, 50 blast radius instead of 40, much higher suppressive power, and 60mm heat penetration. So better all round. So certainly something to keep in mind. Obviously 120mm better. However, it is slower than getting around than the Lav, and it costs more. So something to bear in mind. However, the loadout can change. So again, it gets smoke. Same principle on the smoke, just for covering an area. Armor package can be upgraded to reactive armor, which is bugged at the moment, so it's got the wrong texture, but it's reactive armor, improves the armor all round. Can have a self-defense package, again, with the M240, the M2, or the Mark 19. Again, you're going to be keeping it behind the lines. If it's getting near the enemy, something's gone wrong. Or they've got behind you, I guess. And then the loadout does change, so you can have mostly HE, mostly smoke, or you can upgrade to guided rounds, which gives you quite a lot of HE, a reasonable amount of smoke, and then 9 guided rounds. They're basically the same as the non-guided rounds, except they're laser guided and will obviously hit their target. So I guess you could hit vehicles with those, and you'd hope it would be rather effective, because it's still got 60mm heat penetration, and the top of a lot of tanks, or a lot of vehicles in general, isn't that high, so you'd hope you would be doing damage. I honestly haven't tried, is the truth of the matter. I haven't tried firing a mortar shell laser guided onto a tank, but I would imagine it does damage, because it's just heat damage, which is just the flat type of damage. It's not like it's doing anything special beyond that, as far as I'm aware. Next up is the HIMRs. Again, something that people will be familiar with, I'm sure. A fairly modern unit, obviously pretty fast, getting around the map at 85 speed. This comes with the 227mm HE rockets, which can be laser guided, but they don't have to be. So you can just fire this at an area, as far as I understand it, or you can laser guide them into an area to make them more precise. The option is yours. So these do pretty big blast radius, pretty high amount of damage, double the damage in fact of those 120mm mortars, and they do 100mm heat penetration. So quite a nasty piece of kit. Obviously spread over an area. You only get 6 of them per launch, I guess. So if you can laser guide them, all the better. Armor package, you can have the B kit armor, which just gives it a little bit more all around, but again, shouldn't be getting this near the front line preferably. Other options in the loadout, you get cluster, which is, as you would expect, cluster. The difference here is it's also got a napalm effect. So unlike the Paladin cluster, where this isn't listed as an effect, the clusters here get napalm. So once they explode, they burn over time, I guess, and do damage over time to anything still in the area. So an extra bit of damage after the fact. Again, these can be laser guided, or they can just be fired in. I've definitely just fired these in without laser guidance. They are top attack because they are cluster, so they still get that top armor attack. And they are 200mm heat penetration, so again, nasty piece of kit. Then there is the ATACMS variant. The ATACMS variant has one missile available. It is a huge missile. It is a ballistic missile and can be shot down by enemy radar anti-air. So you will notice there are various anti-air systems in the game, we've discussed it before, that can shoot down ballistic missiles. And it is designated on those units, and we'll be seeing some shortly. So again, just something to bear in mind. Obviously, very strong, very nasty, lots of damage, will kill a tank if it gets a direct hit. It should do anyway. And then you have the Prism. This is a new technology that was actually just recently added to the game as well. 400mm HE Prism missiles. 2 of them. I'm not sure if they do count as a ballistic missile. They have that flag, so they can be shot down. They can be shot down. Pretty high damage. Pretty good penetration. I've seen them used in game a few times now. They are pretty nasty. They do a lot of damage. Very accurate as well. Very accurate. Laser guided or otherwise, they are very accurate. You don't want to be on the receiving end of a ballistic missile. PIVADS. It's a little dinky thing. You may remember this as the M113, because it's the same box, isn't it? It's just got a 20mm Gatling gun on top. That Gatling gun can fire at infantry, vehicles, helicopters, ballistic missiles, and aircraft because this is a radar anti-air unit. The radar can be turned on or off. Note that this is a heat penetration round, but it has a fixed 20mm of heat penetration. This makes more sense. I still don't understand the one on the Lav A. I almost feel like it's a mistake. But this makes more sense. 20mm heat penetration, done and dusted, no variability. Makes sense for a Gatling gun in my opinion, that's firing heat rounds, as far as the game is concerned. Armor package can upgrade to the slat and smoke. Maybe you would do that with this, because technically if you are bringing this in, then you might bring it up to the front line to deal with helicopters. I wouldn't go out of my way to bring this in, but you know what? It's fairly cheap, and thinking about it, I guess it would be a good distractor for seed missiles from enemy jets that are trying to kill radar AA, so those jets could waste their missiles on the PIVADS, and then the Patriot can shoot them down. Might not work out like that, but just as a thought. I don't generally bring this. I think there are other options I'd rather bring in the deck. But I've seen it used, and, you know, it's a Gatling gun. It shoots stuff. The M270A1 MLRS system. Multiple launch rocket system. So, pretty much similar to the HIMRs, right? So, you start off with the 227mm HE rounds, except you get 12 instead of 6. You can have cluster if you wish. You get 12. Again, it's cluster. 12 instead of 6. Pretty much exactly the same as the HIMRs in terms of capabilities. And then you get the ATACMS, which is a ballistic missile. Except this time you get 2 of them instead of 1, because it can fit 2. Again, they can be shot down, so bear that in mind. Next up is the funniest little transport in any game, in any division that you will see. This is the M548A3. Look at the weird dinky little thing. It's amphibious. It's just such a weird unit. It really is. Obviously it's for funny terrain and stuff, but it's just such a weird unit. Can be upgraded with an M240 machine gun, an M2 heavy machine gun, or a Mark 19 grenade launcher as ever. It can only carry supplies, it can't carry infantry. I don't know why I would ever bring this in, I really don't. It can carry twice as much as the Lav A. I will accept that, but I'd rather just bring in the Lav A. It's cheaper. I just can't see any situation where I would want to bring this in. The Lav A's amphibious, so it's not like I'm missing anything. I don't know. It's the funniest little thing. It really is. But other than the self-defense package, that's all it gets. I just shrugged my shoulders at that one. It's a weird thing. The M6A2 linebacker. It's a Bradley, but for anti-air. So basically, it's a Bradley platform, isn't it? And then they've basically put an anti-air gun on it. I say an anti-air gun. It's actually got the Bushmaster, which can't fire at aircraft. we can upgrade it to have a gun that fires at aircraft, though. So the Bushmaster, the M240, we've seen them before. We know what they've got. Armor penetration rounds and heat rounds, as far as the game is concerned. They can fire at infantry, vehicles, and helicopters. But then it comes equipped with stingers instead of tow missiles. So it's got a stinger pod on the side there. Can have up to 12 stinger missiles available to it. I'm assuming it has 4 at a time, and then it reloads. But again, 2,000 meter range. Can upgrade the armor to Busk or Busk 3 if you so wish. No speed upgrades for this one though. It's always 55, which is a little bit disappointing. Variants of this vehicle, you can have the linebacker variant, which is the Bushmaster. You can upgrade to the M Shorad version, which comes with the M230LF 30mm cannon or autocannon. That, unlike the other one, comes with HEDP rounds, or heat rounds as far as the game is concerned. Basically, it's just another variant of heat rounds. It doesn't have any other ammunition type, so it is effective against infantry, light vehicles, helicopters, and missiles. So it can target ballistic missiles because it has the radar option. However, can't fire at aircraft. I guess it doesn't track fast enough for aircraft, is the implication there. Obviously, it has the M240 still, and it has the Stingers. The Stingers, well, they're effective against aircraft and helicopters. But yeah, I don't know why that can't fire at jets. I guess it just doesn't track them well enough, or it doesn't move. I don't know. But yeah, apparently it can't target aircraft, the gun. You can also upgrade it to the M6A4 M-Shorad, which gives it exact same gun. However, it changes the Stingers to the Hellfire. Now, the Hellfire can obviously hit vehicles. It can also hit helicopters. The Hellfire technically is another missile in the game that has a top-down attack action, so its trajectory should go up and then come back down on its target to hit top armor, but it is not a guaranteed thing like it is for some weapons in the game. We've discussed this. It's a bit like the Javelin, I guess. This Hellfire has 19mm of heat penetration, so again, we are aiming for a top-down attack on a vehicle. However, it's not going to technically top-down attack a helicopter. It's going to just hit the helicopter. Can't fire at aircraft, though. And can't fire at infantry. It's a weird upgrade option. It's never really took my fancy, to be honest. But I guess, you know, it's got a very good range against tanks. So, in some ways, it's an effective anti-tank weapon compared to a tow launcher, because the tow launcher is shorter range. The tow launcher is 1600 and this is 1800 meters. So it's not a bad missile to have against enemy vehicles, but you're going to be hoping for a top-down hit on the top armor with only 90mm of heat penetration. Something to bear in mind. And then finally, last but I guess not least, is probably the most important air defense unit you get, which is the Patriot. So the Patriot is your big long-range air defense unit with radar. It can shoot down jets and it can shoot down missiles. It can't shoot down helicopters. Obviously, it's an all-in-one system. The radar would technically be separate in real life, but it's just considered all-in-one for this. You can upgrade its armor to a B kit, but I don't think that really helps against the Seed Missile. The Seed Missile will kill it in one hit anyway, so I don't know why you'd bother paying extra armor for it. You can give it, again, a self-defense weapon, but if anything gets near it, it's going to die probably anyway, because it's so lightly armored. I don't know how much any of that's going to help it. The weapons can be upgraded, though. You can go from 2 missiles to 4 missiles, which I think is well worth it. It's another 60 points, but, you know, 4 missiles instead of 2, that's a lot of extra firepower. It means you're going to be able to hit more jets. So I always upgrade this. I don't know if anyone doesn't. I'd be curious. But I always upgrade it. No change in range, obviously. It is just the flat 4,000 meter range. Obviously, adding the radar makes a difference because radar makes it a lot more accurate, but makes it susceptible to those seed jets, or the seed missiles on the jets. So you may have to babysit a little and turn off that radar if you see seed jets coming in. But there you go, the support tab of the American Battlegroup. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Please do like, share, subscribe, and I will see you all soon.